This is a Fox 5 News special report.
It is 4:45 on this Sunday, and we're coming to you with the news of the death of former President Jimmy Carter. The Carter Center sharing that news moments ago. We know he died peacefully at his home in Plains sometime around 3:30 or 3:45. Now, he's the only Georgian to serve as president. Jimmy Carter was born in 1924 in the small town of Plains in South Georgia. He served as governor from 1971 to 1975, then one term in the White House after losing his bid for re-election to Ronald Reagan. That was back in 1980. President Carter entered hospice care in February 2023, really shifting the narrative around hospice and what it means for those in their final stages of life. In his farewell address, President Carter said our American values are not luxuries, but necessities, not the salt in our bread, but the bread itself. When elected, Mr. Carter was seen as the antidote for a nation still reeling from Watergate, and his post-presidential achievements as a diplomat, humanitarian, and also an author set a high bar for those who followed. Fox 5's Elise Edie has a look back at his enduring legacy, a public service, the journey that took him to the governor's mansion all the way up to the White House. But we begin where he loved the most, and that is in Southwest Georgia, in the city of Plains.
James Earl Carter was born in Plains, Georgia on October 1st, 1924, into a family of peanut farmers. There, in the peanut capital of the world, the Carter family's Baptist roots ran deep. Jimmy, as he liked to be called, was fond of the family business, but grew to love the life of public service even more.
America did not invent human rights. In a very real sense, it's the other way around. Human rights invented America. Ours was the first nation in the history of the world to be founded explicitly on such an idea.
In his early years, Mr. Carter attended Georgia Southwestern College, Georgia Tech, and the United States Naval Academy. He went on to serve overseas. He would marry Rosalind Smith, and together they would have 3 sons and a daughter. After his father died in 1953, Jimmy Carter returned to Plains to take over the family farming supply business. While home, he became involved in community affairs, serving on the county school board, the hospital board, and the Georgia Planning Association. In 1962, amid the growing civil rights movement, Mr. Carter was elected to the state Senate. From there, it was on to a gubernatorial campaign in '66. That attempt failed, but in 1971, Jimmy Carter became Georgia's 76th governor.
I want to do a good job as governor. The only thing I can promise you to do is my best.
Jimmy who?
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy who?
I don't know who he is.
There was a major headline on the editorial page of the Atlanta Constitution that said Jimmy Carter is running for what?
From there, his political career flourished. In 1974, then Governor Carter announced his run for president. He won his party's nomination at the 76th convention on the first ballot.
America's president, Jimmy Carter.
On November 2nd, 1976, Jimmy Carter, campaigning as a Washington outsider, defeated Gerald Ford and won the White House.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States.
President Carter would serve one term from 1977 to 1981. There were some monumental highs during his time in office, like the brokering of the Camp David Accord between Egypt and Israel.
I kept Sadat in one cabin, Menachem Begin in another cabin, and I went back and forth between them to try to bring some resolution to the issues that divided the Israelis and the Egyptians.
But his years in office were also beset by the energy crisis, inflation, high interest rates, and the infamous 444 days of the American hostage crisis in Iran.
And the Ayatollah let the plane take off 2 minutes after I was no longer president. But I was grateful that I had been able to negotiate their release.
All the hostages were released on President Carter's last day as president, and just as Ronald Reagan took office.
I understood more clearly than I ever have before in my life why you won in November 1980 and I lost.
After losing re-election, President Carter continued to campaign human rights throughout the world. He founded the Carter Center in Atlanta to promote global health, democracy, and human rights.
And I wanted to figure out what we could do with the rest of my life, capitalizing on the opportunities that had come to me because I had been the president of a great nation.
After his presidency, Mr. Carter also became a strong advocate of Habitat for Humanity, solidifying his legacy, his leading role as one of the country's most productive former presidents. Over the years, he wrote more than 24 books and continued efforts to promote worldwide peace by monitoring international elections and establishing various relief efforts. Then, in 2015, came shattering news about his health. The nation's 39th president announced with candor that he was battling liver and brain cancer.
Now I feel, that it's in the hands of God, whom I worship, and I'll be prepared for anything that comes.
Extensive treatment followed, yet it didn't stop Carter from doing what he did best, serving the people.
God loves us so much that he saved us.
Carter continued leading Sunday school classes at Maranatha Baptist Church in Plains and building Habitat for Humanity homes for those in need. President Carter received many honors throughout his life. At the 2000 Democratic Convention, delegates rose to their feet in his honor. And there's the USS Carter that was added to the Navy fleet.
The most deeply appreciated and emotional honor I've ever had.
But it was President Carter himself who said his highest recognition came in 2002 when he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
It is with a deep sense of gratitude that I accept this prize.
James Earl Carter considered life itself a prize and said he cherished every single moment.
I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends, and I've had an exciting and adventurous and gratifying existence.
James Earl Carter Jr. was born in Plains, Georgia in 1924. The son of a spirited small-town nurse and a larger-than-life farmer who ran a country store and agricultural warehouse, Jimmy Carter learned the benefits of hard work. When he graduated from Plains High School, he went to a community college before joining the U.S. Naval Academy. 2 years later, he received a wartime appointment, serving on Navy submarines around the world. Carter's heart was in his home state, and his love was in his hometown. In 1946, he married Rosalind Smith, a young woman who grew up just a few doors down from the Carter family. After serving in the Navy, Jimmy Carter went back to Georgia and entered the world of politics. First, a victory in the state Senate, then a U.S. congressional race. He lost his first campaign for governor, but not the second time around. Wife Rosalind and Mom Lillian tirelessly campaigned throughout the state, including right here in central Georgia. In 1970, Jimmy Carter was elected governor of Georgia, and the next 4 years gave him a reputation as a new kind of Southern politician.
I would say I'm fairly optimistic about the future. I still have ultimate hope in the American people.
Jimmy Carter's longevity cemented his spot in history. He held the title of longest living U.S. president.
How would you like the world to remember you?
I'd like for them to remember me as a man of peace.
But perhaps most central to his legacy was his tireless championing of human rights after leaving the White House.
America must always stand for these basic human rights at home and abroad. That is both our history and our destiny.